Yo, I'm live. We got a live one here. All right, Mom, be quiet. Don't do the dishes. I'm live. Okay, she says she knows better. She knows better, but she still forgets. It's okay. But what is not okay is hawking up a lung. That's not allowed. No, no, no. We don't want that. Anyway, welcome to another edition of AstroLunaChick's Guide to the Universe. I am your hostess, flight attendant, Susan, AstroLunaChick, and thank you for joining me. I've got one person in the chat room. Dave, you win the prize. Dave from Beyond the Strange. Go check him out. He's doing some wonderful interviews. He's got a channel here on YouTube. Check it out. Beyond the Strange with Dave Cruz. Anyway, I hope everyone made it onto the other side safely. On the other side of the eclipse. We had one. We have another one coming. This was the big one, though. I mean, it was pretty powerful. I don't know about you guys, but it was quite revelatory, if I do say so myself. And yeah, I know I've been watching what's going on in my chart, obviously. I mean, you would think so, but it's not obvious. Not all astrologers are constantly navel gazing like I am. But I do. I follow it and kind of knew what was coming. It wasn't going to be a big one for me. I don't have a whole lot of action going on as far as those degrees, that degree in particular. But, looking at it as far as where it is in your chart, and then it's making aspects to other planets in transit, and then looking at is it making an aspect to anything important in your chart? Personal planets like the Sun, Mercury, Mars, Venus, the Moon. Those are most impactful. Jupiter, Saturn. And then as we get further out, the larger, slower moving planets are more societal, generational, that kind of stuff. But if it's an important point in your chart, it will affect you very personally. So it's a good thing to watch, good thing to check out every 6 months to see where the action is happening, where the changes are, and how you can best prepare. Anyway, I am very happy for whoever's joining me today. I'm very, very grateful that you could be here. And if you're new to the show, obviously, please like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for live updates. Um, I realize also that many people don't necessarily know that the live shows go under the live tab. So when you click on a channel, you look at their videos and you get a feed. So the first feed is usually the like the uploaded videos, and then you can look at the live videos. I'm actually gonna go to my channel right now so I know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you go to my channel, there's a home like button, um, and then you've got videos. It's like uh, it's like a menu that goes across the page. Videos, shorts, which I don't have any. Then there's live. So all the live shows are listed under live, and most of them lately I've just been streaming them live because what the hell, right? The last pre-recorded upload that I did was 2 weeks ago, um, on October 2nd, and then before that it was August 20th as far as pre-recorded shows. So if you didn't know, you might go to the videos tab and be like, hey, where's all the videos? But I think if you're on the home page, it'll show. No, it really doesn't. It shows the videos, the pre-recorded uploads, not the lives. So what you want to do is go to the live button. Also, if you click the bell on next to subscription, you should get notifications. I never check my notification feed. However, if you have it set so that it like gives you a banner notification on your device, you'll know when it goes live. Or if you know me and you stick around for a while, you get to know my patterns. And um, I don't usually do anything of importance before noon. And um, like the noonish hour, Eastern time is usually noon o'clock, as I like to call it. That's usually when I do my lives. And every Sunday around noonish is the Sunday show where I'll talk about the weekly astrology, and then I will pop up at will randomly during the week to let you guys know what's on my mind. Anyway, what's on my mind today is the eclipse. Still, I talked about it all week. Hi, Lynn. Lynn's here. You didn't miss anything, Lynn. Everything I said is stuff that you already know because Lynn and Dave are pretty much at the top of the class when it comes to favorites. I do play favorites. I have my favorite listeners and those people who stick with me and show support. I do appreciate very, very much. And yeah, I mean, there are rewards. Like membership has its rewards. So what they are, I won't say because, you know, it's between me and my bestie peeps, and I don't know. I've always been generous with friends. So, yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. The eclipse yesterday, the 14th. Wow. I always feel a little tired around new and full moons, especially new moons, because it's just like I'm running out of steam, so to speak. Um, Not a whole lot of gas left in the tank as far as the lunar cycle goes, but eclipses can really hit us hard because it's a lot of potent energy, and as you all know, there's a lot going on in the world. And if you're an empath, if you're a sensitive, um, you're very affected usually by the energies, the quote energies, and what's going on around you. But there is something about the cycles of the moon and especially the eclipses that cause a disturbance in the field and affect us and our auric field, our energy bodies. So, I always tell people take care of yourself. Rest. Don't do like big stuff unless you have to. Don't make the big decisions. Coming up to the eclipse, we can see changes. If we know our chart, we kind of know how it's affecting us, and we just kind of know what to expect. So it's not a big surprise. However, um, it can hit us on an emotional level, even if we kind of have an intuitive sense that the change um, is on the way, you know. So give yourself some time, rest, recuperate. There are really potent aspects right now. So if it feels heavy, if it feels dire, if there's a lot of, fear and obsession or whatever OCD stuff that people deal with, relationship sort of power dynamics, people all like acting out of turn, just know it's the eclipses. Um, so let's look at that eclipse. Just when you thought that have juiced that lemon, I got more. This is like stuff this is stuff I've been looking at for years. This is what I do every day before breakfast. Wringing all of the good, juicy juice and extracting all of the best and the deepest layers of what can be found in the astrology. Because you know what it is? I got bored. I learned regular traditional astrology and I got bored with, oh, so, you know, Mars square Pluto is violence and nastiness and pushy, obsessive, controlling, um, just popping off angry. All right, tell me more. Ah, I am not surface level, in case you hadn't noticed, which makes me a little bit of an acquired taste, but that's okay. I want people around that want to do the deep, deep dives. So, okay, Friday was Friday the 13th. We know what was declared, by the Muslim world. Not the Muslim, well, whatever fucking leader. I don't even think he was like the current leader. I think he was like a former guy or whatever. Someone said it, and of course, people run with it. But it was Friday the 13th, which always brings a sense of like, you know, what a great way to kick off Halloween season though, right? Like, just doesn't it make you want to go watch Jason movies? Woo! Yeah, speaking of movies, um, has anybody seen Renfield? I know it's been out for a while, but it just popped up in my Amazon feed and it was kind of dorky and kind of action like, I don't know, creepy slash funny. It was kind of funny. I don't usually like that stuff. I mean, I like my dark, not necessarily funny, but it was funny, it was cute, it was kind of funny because, Renfield, well, first of all, the Renfield reference comes from, if you know Thomas Sheridan, he refers to just people who aren't paying attention. They're just like the everyday guy that is, or girl, that is affected by the changes in the weather, um, and they react to it from an unconscious level. So basically, they're just normies, they're householders, um, they get swept up, right, in the bullshit. And they're basically normal people, but underneath they are unstable. And so they kick up when the psychic weather, when there's a disturbance in the field, and they start acting up and acting weird and, just generally unhinged. Those are the Renfields. And so, but Renfield is, Dracula's assistant. And this movie is from Renfield's point of view, and he goes to a self-help group for codependence because he's realizing he's in a toxic relationship with Dracula, and he wins in the end. But it was a cute movie, sort of lighthearted, pretty good special effects if you like blood and gore, a la Reanimator. Remember that one? Anybody seen that one? That one's like a real throwback back to the 80s, Reanimator. Anyway, where did I get off here? Um, the Renfielding, but I always look for the esoteric meanings and things, and I'm thinking, wow, this, this kind of correlates with the latest red pilling of the general population of what we consider to be Renfields, and are they waking up? Maybe. We'll see. Anyway, this eclipse might just be the kick in the ass that everyone needs, everyone who's not already been schooled. Um, what more can we say about this eclipse? 22 degrees of Libra, 2 degrees roughly away from the south node, which is at 25, between 24 and 25 of Libra. So, uh, because we're going to see the moon and then the sun and then Mercury pass over the south node, Mars has already passed over the south node. That's where we saw big explosive events, right? War. That's Mars south node. I mean, that's the general astrological, um, you know, interpretation. Mars south node is really like not good, super not good. And in the worst case scenario, war, and that's what we're seeing. So that's the trigger point. And then Mars made a square to Pluto. The sun, well, first the moon, uh, as the moon, we have the new moon, and then the moon is waxing, growing away from the sun. It passes over the south node. Um, Pretty sure we saw Israel bombing Syria at that point. Like, so it starts right off the rip. And then we'll have the sun, and then we'll have Mercury. And that's the basic course of the week. Um, Mars made a trine to Saturn, which is Mars is doubling down. It is drawing a line in the sand and moving towards its purpose. Mars in Scorpio is covert action. Um, it goes for the juggler. There's no more saber rattling, and um, the time for any kind of negotiations, well past, well past. So Mars, again, military, police, riot, riot forces, whatever, because we have protests, and it's just going to get more crazy. Anyway, um, I am going to, so I'm going to do I'm going to go through the weekly aspects, and then I'm going to go deeper into the meaning of the degrees of the eclipse, the stars behind it, and any asteroids that I want to throw in. So let's go through the week quickly. All right, you guys know what I like to do with my numerology with the dates, reducing it down, and how I like to point out for you guys to watch the 3, the 6, and the 9 day. See, I'm getting more organized here. This is great. Yeah, so I'm going to tell you that right off the bat that the 13th was the 3 day, and so you know where we were all at on the 13th. Then the next day in the energy building is the 16th. That's the 6. And then the 9, the end of that energetic cycle, is the 19th. So those are the days to watch. We already had the 13th. The 16th is tomorrow, and then the 19th after that. So 3, 6, and 9. Okay. So today, the 15th, is a 5 day. The even days tend to be, for me, sort of a point of stability of like, well, if you're looking at the difference between an odd number day and an even number day, generally speaking, the energy will be a little bit more stabilized on the even number day and a little more chaotic on the odd number day because those numbers are off balance. So it goes, back and forth, the balance, every other day, pretty much, when you're talking about odds and evens in general. And then you have to factor the aspects in. But yeah, so today is a 5 day. So we're dealing with, the building of whatever this energy is, whatever the things that are happening in your life, whatever you saw with the eclipse. And it is we have the personal revelations that are happening that show us where we are in terms of our relationships, first and foremost, because we are talking about Libra energy and what we need to release because we're dealing with the South Node, um, and then looking externally to see what events might correlate with our internal realizations and as far as where things are going in our life. What cycle are we ending from the 6-month eclipse cycle, the spring eclipses at the end of April, beginning of May, as opposed to where we are at now. So we have Mars is already in Scorpio, like I had mentioned. Today the moon is in Scorpio and it will conjunct Mars. So Mars is our will, our action, that's aggression, it's purpose and drive and resolve. Being in Scorpio, it's much more subtle than in Libra. So we're dealing with our Mars energy, our yang, masculine, um, external, the actions that we want to take, but we're dealing with it more on a subtle emotional level. So the anger, if there is any, gets sublimated a little bit. It's less passive aggressive. It's more like, I know what I want, I know where I'm going, and I'm on target on a personal, as far as how we are, how we're dealing with this on a personal level. Mars is a co-ruler of Scorpio. So Pluto is the ruler, um, currently in modern astrology, but Mars, before Pluto was discovered, it was Mars. So Mars rules Aries, yes, and that's, aggression, masculine energy, but as the co-ruler of Scorpio, it rules, how we're taking action, and it rules war, the tactics of war, and how we fight, whether it's, personal, or how people are going after things aggressively, how they handle their anger. um, and it also deals with military and police forces. So the tactics are more covert, the the attacks are more deadly, right? Mars is also in Scorpio, is also very patient. It bides its time. It's also psychological warfare. So the rules of engagement have changed since Mars went into Scorpio, and it made a trine to Saturn, which solidifies its resolve even more. Yeah, so um, Mars in Libra was maybe like giving a warning. Mars in Scorpio, gloves are off. Like, already sent out that warning. You know how I feel, to keep the peace. This is what I want. And then, um, yeah, there's no more, you don't get a second warning on that stuff. Also, like the anger is simmering resentment, and it's revengeful. So just know that. And it's because a boundary is crossed. So, yeah, that's where we're at. Um, so the moon is in Scorpio. It's very cautious. It's definitely going into things cautiously and taking the psychic temperature. So that's today, the 15th. What else do we have? Um, the moon conjunct Mars is going to deal with some asteroids. I will give you those as they are in Scorpio. Okay, so we've got the first one is asteroid Haumea, which is at 0 to 1 degrees of Scorpio. That is a Hawaiian goddess of motherhood, fertility, childbirth. So, what is being birthed here? Um, then the next one is Elatus, Elatus. And I relate that to, in terms of, because it sounds like elated, but it is a character in Greek mythology. Um, it's not really a major character, so I just kind of looked at it. I've looked at it as being elated or puffed up or elevated, right? So Mars is conjunct Elatus. And what has happened? The war has escalated, it has elevated. The next one that we have to look at is Narcissus at 5 degrees of Scorpio, which the moon will pass over today. Narcissus, over the last year, was late last year, so around this time last year, I believe that it was in Scorpio most of last year and then retrograded into Libra. So it was in Libra for most of the year. So if you think about how narcissists um, operate, or the narcissistic principle, the narcissist in Libra is probably a lot more friendly, I would say, and that would be like the smiling to your face and stab you in the back frenemy type of narcissist. But the narcissist in Scorpio is ruthless. So maybe we were looking at the covert type of narcissism in Libra, whereas in Scorpio, the narcissistic types that are going to be most obvious are the ones that are just fucking evil, right? And very psychologically manipulative. So if you look, you could think about it in terms of the personal life, people that you're dealing with. If, you know, I mean, if this is an aspect that is affecting your chart, definitely you would probably um, experience it on some level. Or, I mean, we could look at our own narcissistic traits too, because we all have some level of narcissism. But in terms of the people, let's say, at the top of the pyramid who have power and how they show us their narcissism, we're definitely seeing the darker side of narcissistic abuse. And it is psychologically manipulative. So you know what's going on right now. That everything you see is to trigger fear, um, and to play upon your deepest, darkest shadow side of what we fear. And in Scorpio, that's death, like very evil acts of destruction. And what are we seeing, right? Just even the pictures I've watched through through Twitter where people are analyzing these pictures and picking out the ones that are fake. I don't even look at that stuff. Like, I cannot even look at a picture or a video, or like, I'm just avoiding it because it's, you don't know what's true, what's real, and what's not, what's AI generated. That's part of this psychological warfare, like Lynn mentioned in the chat, fifth generation. And I like to zig when they zag. I don't want to focus where they're trying to make me focus. So, you know, I could be looking at Israel's chart right now, or I could be looking at Iran's chart. I could be looking at the attack, the chart of the moment, but I'm not going to get into it. That's not that's not what I'm here for. I like to look at the very deep esoteric layers, um, so that we can, you know, rise above it, so that we know how to counteract the psychic attack, because this is all one huge psychic attack. So, um, so those are the asteroids. Also, at 6 degrees of Scorpio, we have asteroid Apollon, which is Apollo, which is just another name for Apollo. And Apollo, again, Greek mythology, the gods. So I'll read you a brief description. Apollo or Apollon is one of the Olympian deities in classical Greek and Roman religion and mythology. Apollo is recognized as the god of archery, music, dance, truth, prophecy, healing, and diseases, the sun and light. Um, so it has similar themes to Jupiter, Zeus, okay, truth and prophecy, healing, and the sun. So it is the solar aspect. We have the solar deities, the lunar deities. This is a solar deity, so it represents the leader. represents government, right? That kind of thing. And then we have Rhadamanthus, which is another one of the underworld gods that judges the dead in mythology. Um, Son of Zeus and Europa. Again, Zeus being the solar deity, the king, and so he is a ruler and a judge in the underworld, renowned for his justice. So we have a lot of the theme of judgment, of leadership, and Rhadamanthus in this position here around this degree has been here for a long time. It moves very, very slow, this particular asteroid. And this asteroid was instrumental in I believe it was the solar eclipse last fall, um, around this degree of 5 to 6 degrees of Scorpio. So it has to do with the justice system, legal issues, and when you see an underworld judge in mythology, they are the judge of the dead. It's the how do I put it? It's the idea of our shadow, the collective shadow, and in terms of how it plays out in the public through our political system, our legal system. So it is the judging or the weighing of how our society is functioning. Um, and that's exactly what I saw with the last eclipse on this degree in terms of the particular uh, major, like, headlining public sensational legal cases where one of them, where we're at right now, um, it looks like the guy that they got is not guilty. Crazy. But what is being shown to us that was hidden, because that's what Rhadamanthus is doing, it's judging the hidden stuff and bringing it up from the shadow so we can see it in terms of how our society and how our legal system is functioning, because things are covered up, uh, suspects are framed, evidence is planted, that kind of thing. So, this is an interesting one to watch as we go into Scorpio season, because the moon hits it today, but Mars is going towards that degree, and so is the sun and Mercury. So Scorpio season should be really interesting, because with Mars here, there will be things that are done and things that we're told that the truth will come out as to, what was really going on, after the fact. So, um, yeah, so that's today. And that's pretty much the only aspect that the moon is making today. So it's all about Saturn, the moon trining Saturn, which is strengthening our resolve and ready to do the deep work psychologically with the moon in Scorpio. And it's our feelings. We're kind of simmering and maybe holding back a bit, even though the moon is conjunct Mars, because we know what actions we want to take, but we're sort of holding our cards close to our chest right now. Um, the eclipse happened. We're on the other side of it. We've walked through a doorway. We are aware on an internal level, but it's going to take a while for this to externalize. And if you're waiting for someone else to act, or you're waiting for things to see how they shape up in terms of our relationships, um, give it a few days. It'll come out. And that's pretty much it. Well, the moon sextiles Venus also later on, Venus in Virgo at 6 degrees. So we're still looking at our actions, our intention with Mars, or our anger, and we're looking at where we're at on an emotional level in terms of our relationships or our finances as the moon makes a sextile to Venus. Uh, and Saturn has us making some, hopefully, mature decisions and showing restraint. There's a lot of restraint with the moon in Scorpio as it is, but with the trine to Saturn, even more so. We want to be level headed. So that's the 15th today. Monday is our 6th day, 10/16. As I mentioned, it is the next phase or step in the building energy as it relates to whatever happened on the 13th, whatever realizations we were having, conversations, revelations, and such. I believe that Monday will be a big day. So, Monday we have the moon in Scorpio. It is waxing. It is making an opposition to Jupiter, which is our truth, justice, laws, international, um, things of an international nature, higher learning, universities. We know what's going on some campuses. Monday should be an interesting day. Um, in terms of laws being broken and statutes not being honored and followed and procedure, I think there will be issues. If we're looking at what's happening in the House, we have I don't think we don't have a House Speaker. I know they nominated Jordan. It's kind of weird because oh, I have to make a correction. I think I said last week that I thought maybe we'd have a woman, and I just associated, I don't know, free association. Kari Lake, she's not even in the Senate. She's announcing a run for the Senate or Congress. Senate, I think. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not really not really up on political procedure, but I am very interested. Anyway, I thought um, because I saw a man leaving with Mars South Node, um, and perhaps a female coming in somewhere. But I mean, whatever. I was wrong about that. I think that's what I said. Like, oh, maybe the speaker will be a woman, but I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on. But like they had Scalise, and then they didn't have Scalise, and it looks like Jordan. But see, this is the effect of the eclipse, which was in conjunct to Uranus. Uranus is a freaking wild card. This could go anywhere, and I think it could. Well, the next weird curveball will probably be on Monday because we have Mercury. So our eclipse was at 21 to 22 degrees of Libra. On the 16th, Mercury will be 21 to 22 degrees of Libra. So anytime the eclipse degree is triggered by a transiting planet, we will see the effects of the eclipse. So if you're watching what unfolds every time we have an aspect, then you'll know for yourself what the effect of the eclipse, the changes that are coming. Um, and it's going to be like boom, boom, boom in succession. We have the eclipse, and then, like right after that, we have Mercury making the inconjunct to Uranus while it's at that degree of the eclipse. Uh, it'll take a while for Venus to get there, but anytime the moon triggers that degree, so the moon in Scorpio is going to oppose Jupiter. At the very least, it's overwhelming amount of secretiveness or the revealing of things that have been hidden, um, with the moon in Scorpio. Scorpio is investigations, it's research, um, it's crises, hidden things, criminal underworld sort of networks, which is actually very significant in everything that's going on, because part of the issue is, and I don't think it's been discussed too much because we're still, things are so like something happens and then it's crazy and then another thing happens, so it's one thing after another, so we're not really getting down to the truth about what's happening, but it will come out later. But there's a lot about secret deals, negotiations, backroom stuff that we're not privy to. But and the way, but the it's who's connected to who that we don't know, and who is, when we're looking at the guilty party, there's a whole network behind them. And that has to do with what I've been watching in the mid degrees of Virgo with an asteroid that I've talked about before, which is Aphidas, Aphidas. That has to do with criminal activity and networks of criminals, um, guilty by association, and like the RICO type lawsuits. Um, and here we can also look at proxy warfare because, you know, nations are funding these terrorist type organizations. So I expect that this will be coming out. It was a point of interest for me watching things that were happening with our house speaker. So I think Monday will be an interesting day because the moon will be making an aspect, sextile to asteroid house in Capricorn, which I've been talking about, and it's at 15 degrees. It's making a trine, a grand earth trine to the asteroid I was just speaking about, which is in Virgo, Aphidas. That is also a sensitive point because the sun made its conjunction to retrograde Mercury. So that degree is a sensitive point, and they're both making, or have been making, a trine to Jupiter in Taurus, which is retrograde right now. So um, you know, things having to do with justice and the legal system, laws, and the house. But think about what the house, what, house could be your house. House could be, the House of Commons, the House Judiciary, whatever, whatever. The House of Saud. It can mean a lot of things. And also the concept of the strong man who guards the house. Because the degrees that we are talking about also, as we have our transits through Libra, are degrees that fall in the constellation of Boots. And Boots is the bear warden. Boots is the one who manages other people's resources, the custodian, who manages the house. A lot to do with people in the legal profession. Here we go again. Uh, hold on. So it's all tied in together. So when I say house, it can mean a lot of things. So this is an interesting day, and it is the 6th day on Monday. 1016 reduces to the 6th. So will we have a speaker? Will they kick out Jim Jordan because he's got dirt on him or something? I don't know. That would take a little bit more digging on my part, and I'm not doing that today. Also, Moon in Scorpio will also make, just for your reference, a sextile to asteroid Siva, which is Shiva, and having to do with the creation and destructive force, everything that Shiva represents, which is also conjunct to asteroid DNA, if that is important to anyone. But I'm not really talking about that in depth today. However, what I have seen happening, the information and where the conversation is going, talking a lot about DNA, because guess what? DNA is very important if you're looking at the roots of the conflict right now um, in the Middle East. DNA, because uh, what we might label as Jewish, meaning non-Jews and Westerners, we don't understand what that is. But if you do understand, there are the Ashkenazis and the Sephardic people. And I think a huge percentage of the population of the Arabic world are Sephardic. So the Ashkenazi is not genetically related to Sephardics. So Ashkenazi and Khazarian is the same thing. Um, but the Ashkenazi are not genetically the same as the Sephardic peoples, which are darker, and the Ashkenazis are light skinned, tend to be lighter skin, sometimes blue, lighter eyes, whatever. Um, and that's an interesting thing that I think is coming up with DNA, because they do like to study their DNA, and they do consider their DNA to be special, superior. Um, it's interesting because I had a boss that I worked for who, everyone labeled him as Israeli. He wasn't born in Israel, actually. He was born in Romania. Um, and I had a conversation with him one day and I said, so you're Jewish? Yeah, yeah, I'm Jewish. I was educated in Israel, went to kibbutz and all of that. Um, so I said, so are you, knowing the answer, I said, are you Sephardic Jew or are you Ashkenazi? And he was absolutely stunned. He's like, I'm surprised you even knew that there was a difference. I was like, yeah, well, there's a lot that you don't know about me. But he said, no, I am Sephardic. Um, and that's weird. Where did you hear that? How did you know? Because at that time, I mean, this was a while back. Now I think people are a little bit more hip to understanding that there is a difference. I was like, well, never you mind. I got my nose in things that you wouldn't even you wouldn't even think. But also, here's how I kind of knew, because many years before that, I was working in real estate as a real estate broker, and I had a client. I had a buyer who was investing in income properties. And he made a point of telling me very proudly when we started talking about, because he actually was born in Israel, and he made a proud point of telling me, yes, I'm Israeli. Yes, I'm a Jew. I am an Ashkenazi Jew. Like, don't get it wrong. He made a very clear point of letting me know there's a difference. I'm an Ashkenazi, not a Sephardic, because he was telling me like I'm better. Um, I mean, I didn't really realize it at the time, but now I see that I was looking into the eyes of a psychopath. He did tell me that the reason why he came to the States was because he was pretty high up, I guess, in the Israeli army. I mean, everyone goes and serves time in the army there in Israel, but like he was in the army. Like he was some kind of career military. He was sent to the US to train our police force in New York City. We know that now that they were trained in like Israeli counterterrorism, stuff like that, um, after 9/11 or before 9/11. Because I'm thinking about when I met him, really was not that long. Well, I guess he could have been after 9/11. Who knows? But yes, and I never, like back then, I didn't know. So this probably would have been around 2004, 2005. I know these things now, but back then it was like, what are you talking about? You came to train our 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 police? And I thought he was lying. I thought he was bragging. But no, years later, I found out that, oh, yeah, like they did come here to train our police forces, specifically in New York City. He was here for that. But, man, he had those cold killer eyes too. But yeah, he was very proud of the fact and wanted me to know. I ain't just no regular, Jew. I am an Ashkenazi, which makes me special. So, if you listen to Cliff High, you'll understand a lot more about that in terms of what the history is with all of that in the Middle East and the El, the Elohim. or the what do you call them? The Elohim and the fallen angels and all of that. So that's very interesting. You can go find, excuse me, Cliff High and check that out. Um, moving right along because I don't want to dally. I promised I wasn't going to do a 3-hour show today. All right, the 16th, interesting day. Please watch. It's Monday. What else is there? The aspects. Venus is sextile to asteroid Vesta. Vesta is home and hearth, and it's in Cancer. So it is about protecting the home, the homeland, and Venus in terms of relationships and finance. Venus in Virgo is kind of tight-fisted and not feeling very abundant, and not really wanting to spend the money, wanting to keep it home. And that is a great debate that's going on right now, isn't it? Where we're just like giving out fucking dollars. Maybe it's because we know the dollar's actually worthless. It means nothing. But they ain't giving it to us. They're not handing it out to us, so it's getting people pissed off. Mars in Virgo, I'm sorry, Mars in Scorpio, also making aspect to Vesta, needing to protect. So there's an amping up of the police forces, of the protection, um, protecting the homeland. The moon, like I said, is opposing Jupiter early in the day, mid, but depending on where you are. I mean, the West Coast, it's going to be earlier, obviously. Um, and then the moon is going to trigger Uranus. Again, it's triggering Uranus, which is involved with the eclipses, with the eclipse, solar eclipse that we just had. So, big announcement, big news, big, crazy, weird, shocking, probably secrets coming out. Maybe there will be more talk about how the US is funding both sides. And people, you're right, Dave, people need to get fucking pissed off. What is this, Dave? There are Ashkenazi, Sephardi, Mizrahi, as in Isaac, and crypto Jews. Tell me about crypto Jews. I need to know about that. All I know is way back, I had a conversation with my mother about the politicization of Christianity and support for the nation of Israel. And I said, do you not understand that the Jews that are in charge are the same ones in the Bible where Jesus addressed them and says, to you who call yourself Jews, but who are lying? I don't think she remembers that conversation. Because we're still praying for Israel. Don't get me started. All right, so crazy day. You know, Moon in Scorpio is secrets, covert, death. I don't know what else is going on. Let me see if there's any asteroids in Scorpio that I missed. Anything else that I can pick out to give you guys. Oh, interesting. Yeah, well, I did talk about for today, I went up to Radamanthus. Asteroid Child comes after that. Child at 7 degrees of Scorpio. Oh, yeah. This relates to seeing photos of the death of children and how they're using that. Perhaps it'll come out that that was fake. I did see that one of those burnt offerings of children um, that was being circulated was AI generated. Busted. What am I talking about? I talked about the asteroid Photographica, which is in Cancer. I'll just review. The asteroids that I was talking about in Cancer are from 3 degrees of Cancer, Asbolus and Chaos, the seer of chaos, Vesta, home and hearth and family in Cancer. Again, redundant, same thing, home, hearth, family. Ascalathus, 7 degrees of Cancer, is a snitch, is revealing information that people would rather you not know. Estrella is justice at 8 degrees of Cancer. Binor, Bienor, at 13 degrees of Cancer. And Photographica at 13 degrees of Cancer. 14 degrees of Cancer is Hades. And 16 degrees of Cancer is Kronos. So, as the moon goes through, let's say, 3 to 16 degrees of Scorpio, it is revealing or even fomenting new plans, new plots, but secrets in Scorpio and death, right? What are we dealing with? We're seeing pictures of death. So I expect something to come out on Monday. If it's not some new video or photograph, but it's like I said, the shit happens, we debunk it, but no sooner do we debunk it, the more shit is happening. So the momentum keeps going, but it will keep getting exposed. So I'm wondering what will come up on Monday. Look for it. Kronos has to do with Saturn. Kronos, god of time, very similar. He was the king until Zeus came along and kicked him out. What else do we know about Kronos? It's very Saturn-like, Saturn and time, and very entrenched power, like generational, like the old king that, you know, the dysfunctional ruler. The thing about Kronos and Saturn is that he was afraid of being uh, overcome, or his position being taken by his own offspring. So it's the long-term uh you know whatever ruler or political figure of authority who is part of the old system and just doesn't want to let go, and is kicking all the up and comings, the younger generation, because he doesn't want to be bested by them, or you know he's not moving with the time. But also, this is the concept of narcissistic parents, where they don't want to see their kids succeed because they don't want, someone taking the limelight from them. Uh, it is kind of the way a narcissistic parent sort of undermines and sets their child up for failure. I wonder if this has anything to do with Biden and Hunter. Because, I mean, that is a fucking, like, that is just, that's Saturn and the way Saturn eats its children. Not that Hunter's not responsible, but Joe made him everything he is today. So, Chronos, again, what are we seeing? Something with photographics anytime the moon is aspecting that degree, and it will from Scorpio. So because we have the moon opposing Jupiter, making a trine to Photographica, Hades. Hades is another god of the underworld. Hades is hell, another word for hell. So, uh, pictures of hell, uh, or, photographs being released of something that someone does not want in the public, and it causes them to be in their own personal hell, or going through hell in terms of your family. But Photographica is somehow involved here. So, because we are dealing with Jupiter, Jupiter's making aspect to the moon and Photographica, I'm going to say there is something to do with photographic evidence being presented in either court or congressional hearings, which are happening as we speak. So much juicy out there. Like, I can't even stand it. It's like, wow, this stuff is being spoken about and discussed, and evidence coming up in court hearings, proceedings, grand juries. That's another thing. There's grand juries are secret. Ooh, I just thought of something. Oh, there is shit going down. Okay, Monday. We might not know about it though. That's the whole thing. Scorpio moon. Super secret squirrel. However, there are channels that do discuss these things, and um, the truth is being talked about. You're not going to hear about it maybe on the news. However, you might. So, shit going down. Damn. So, this is really the first visible crescent of the moon. So, you have the new moon, we had the eclipse, then the moon starts to move away from the sun. The crescent doesn't usually become visible until it is, I would say, maybe 15 degrees away from the sun, 15 to 20 degrees. But as far as aspects go and astrology, uh, really, I like to go 30 degrees out. So the first crescent will be seen on Monday. Um, and if you didn't know, and we're going to get into talking about symbolism because this is important. And it's part of the second part of after I do the weekly stuff, if I can fucking get through it. I'm still stuck on Monday, Jesus. Um, what I'm going to talk about after the weekly aspects is the underlying symbolism and how to read it, because that's going to become very important going forward in the future. Because we will know, um, we will have to read the symbolism and we'll know what's going to happen and who the people are, what the energies are that they're using by the symbolism, because that's like people like wearing their gang colors, flashing their gang signs, so you know who's aligned with who. It's going to be important in the future. And part of the stuff that I'm going to go deeper with the eclipse has to do with reading steganography, symbolism, and that kind of thing. So let's see what happens on Monday. That's the first crescent, should be visible. As far as visual astrology, where you would look at what you can visibly see in the night sky or in the day sky. I mean, sometimes you can see the moon, but the first crescent, when it becomes visible after the new moon, is considered um, the energy in play. So you usually don't see it until you might not. That's the other thing. You may not see the moon, the lunar crescent, on that day because it's cloudy. So, I mean, this is the way the ancients looked at astrology. You wait to see the signs, and the first sign you're looking for is the first visible crescent, and then all of the other signs and auguries that go with that to let you know where things are going. So the 16th, and again, it's the sixth day, it's important. So be aware, be observant, because the aspects Jupiter, moon opposed Jupiter, truth, and opposed Uranus is shocking, unexpected, big changes. It can have to do possibly with internet, media. I look at Uranus in Taurus obviously for the money supply, and where we know where that's going if you're paying attention to bricks. So there could be something about money and who's funding who, um, stock market stuff, crypto, unexpected news, because Mercury at the eclipse degree making inconjunct to Uranus. Uranus is rebellion. It's just crazy shit stirring energy. So, interesting news day, I am certain. Okay, so that's Monday. Tuesday is the 17th. That's 7 day. Again, Mercury is coming into a more exact inconjunct with Uranus. So, Mercury, the mind, news, communications, words that people are saying, that we're saying to other people, shocking, maybe exciting, maybe like really off the cuff and weird. The weirdness factor is amping up. Um, Unexpected things having to do with relationships. Someone announces, I'm getting married, I'm getting a divorce, I'm gay, I'm I'm cutting you out of the will. Maybe. I'm defriended, I'm blocked, and I didn't know it. That kind of weirdness. Um, because of that aspect, I know I've talked about it before, but I want you guys to understand the inconjunct. So think about two planets in opposition. They're in opposite signs. So for instance, we had Mercury opposing Chiron. Mercury in Libra, opposite sign, Aries, we have Chiron. If you go one sign back or one sign forward at the same degree, if you had a planet at the same degree, you would have an inconjunct. It is a difficult angle. If you look at the elements, Mercury's in an air sign, and Mercury is happy in an air sign, And it wants peace, it wants diplomacy, it wants to talk about relationships, partnerships, balance. But Uranus is in an earth sign. Earth and air don't really work together that well. If you have wind, it comes, it kicks up the dirt, then you got dust and it gets in your eyes. Hard to breathe, sandstorms. Ooh, could you? Wow, that's interesting. I wonder. They had some flooding and that like postponed the war. Wonder if there'll be a sandstorm. I don't know. Anyway, just something that came to mind. So the elements don't work well together. We have, well, the Mercury will make an inconjunct to Neptune in Pisces. So that's air and water. Air and water, what do they make? They make fog, steam, weather events. That's Mercury. So if Mercury Uranus is a weather event, that could be a dust storm. But we have the sun making an inconjunct to Neptune. It could be more rain. I don't know. This is interesting. Let's see what happens with the weather. Uranus in Taurus is Earth changes because it is Earth. It's physical, Taurus. But it's also the resources that we have, our values, which are changing, and they have been since Uranus entered Taurus. So some kind of physical changes and having to do with relationships, allocation, uh, the management of other people's resources is hugely emphasized with this eclipse because of the stars being in boots in this part of Libra. So, anything having to do with custodial issues when it comes to investment and finance, um, I would expect that that would be something that might come up. And of course, we're looking at management or mismanagement of our money, our U.S. finances, and where that money is going. We all know that that's a hot debate. That's a hot mess. So the 17th, the 7, we've got the sun conjunct the south node. The sun is our vitality, our, it's leadership, it's leaders, it's the ego. Uh, it shines a spotlight on things, and it's conjunct the south node. So Mars conjunct the south node, we lost Mars. We lost our shit. We got angry. There was war, there was an attack. Now we have the sun there, and that could have to do with a leader stepping down or passing away, um, and some kind of an announcement of a loss of, the South Node is something that we have to let go, letting go of the past, what no longer serves us. Um, you know, I don't. I'm really actually surprised that Biden is still there. It, it just boggles the mind. Like that whole thing is hanging on by a thread. But we're not really seeing the aspects that I would expect necessarily to have him step down or be taken out. But what I am seeing building, I think Kamala's sun is somewhere around the last degrees of Libra and maybe even at 25 degrees of Libra where the South Node is right now. And seeing those aspects, that was why I was thinking that either she could step down or be taken out and be replaced, possibly. In which case, when Biden goes, they would have somebody else to bump up into his place. So I wonder if we'll see some kind of news regarding. But the moon in Scorpio will be in late degrees of Scorpio on the 17th, will be conjuncting Biden's sun. So we'll wait and see what happens. Um, let's see. So the moon starts off in most of the day, it's in Scorpio. It'll move late in the day or mid afternoon, depending on where you are, into Sagittarius. So that'll be around 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. On the Pacific. So for most of the day, um, well, let's see, 3, 6, yeah, for about a good 6 hours or so, the moon will be void, of course. So there won't be any real announcement or movement. So the energy of the moon over the 16th and the 17th in Scorpio, I think there will be a focus on Biden. Um, Maybe he's saying something stupid. Like this almost really looks like the South Node and the Sun in conjunct to Neptune is revealing the lies, but through the lack of um, a connection and rooting in reality, which would be, dementia or whatever, or just like, I don't know. I mean, I could see him saying something like, well, yeah, of course we funded both sides. Like, what are you stupid? Of course we do. Like, what's the big deal? Saying something really stupid like that. Like, you're not supposed to admit to it. And that sends shockwaves. It feels like something is said by a leader in error or in, just believing that their lies are true with the Neptune and with oh my God, the asteroids that we have at that degree. I've talked about it many, many times with Neptune, Pandora, Clotho, asteroid Clotho at 22 Pisces, Pandora at 25, Neptune at 25, 26, and Boracisi. So this is either dealing with just, the illusion we've been living under. Pandora's box has been open. Clotho is fate and the weaving. I talked about the weaving of the narrative. It's all coming unraveled with Mercury in conjunct to Uranus. Crazy, shocking, unexpected. This is like the way I look at these sort of in conjunct aspects are something pops out from the subconscious and that's like somebody just saying something off the cuff and the truth is revealed, but like they don't even know what they're saying. They tell you. Have you ever had that happen? That's so weird. Like it's happened to me where I've said something and I'm like, oops, I just revealed myself. But I've had that happen with me a lot with other people. It's kind of weird where they just get talking and they say things they shouldn't say and they tip their hand. That's what this looks like on the 17th. It's going to be Pretty crazy. So as the moon goes into Sagittarius, immediately it will square to Saturn. And moon square Saturn is, uh-oh. Saturn is repercussion. So whatever is said on this day, on the 17th, there's a repercussion for it. And Saturn in Pisces, retrograde, going back from 1 degree to 0 degree of Pisces, is conjunct asteroid karma. Woo hoo hoo. This is crazy. Way to see what happens. So, I mean, I look at Saturn, and Saturn is karma, but it's karma is like, people say karma and they think, oh, you get what you deserve, you get punished, it's your karma. But the concept of karma really just means balancing of the scales, right? So there's good, quote, good karma and bad karma, but it is, for every action there is a reaction, right? So it's cause and effect. It's fuck around and find out, because Saturn has drawn a line in the sand and there are consequences for what we're doing. The moon going into Sagittarius, Sagittarius deals with foreign matters and international things. Um, the truth is ruled by Jupiter, justice. We're talking about the media in terms of the news media, and anything that Sagittarius is, that falls under this heading of Sagittarius, which is also uh, colleges, institutions of higher learning, and religion. So I know that Neptune at those degrees of Pisces is dealing with religious fervor, religious doctrine, dogma, delusions, cult stuff too. So that should be really interesting. I'm going to make some videos this week. I have not done it yet, but I am going to be looking at the charts of people, interesting people, and, I mean, I do it, but I'm just going to make a video. I'm going to start doing it of public figures and some true crime cases, celebrities and shit. So, hashtag Hollywood stars, make a trend. So the 17th, what else can I say? It's just crazy. I'll look a bit. Let me just take just a little peek to see if there's any interesting things going on in. Oh God, my internet has been weird, and I realized it's my VPN. And I don't know about you guys, but I notice when there's crazy, I don't know, things, protests and stuff that look like they could get really hairy, my internet gets weird. And I realized recently that it's the VPN. So are they blocking VPN traffic? Inquiring minds want to know. Um, just wanted to check into Sagittarius to see if there's anything that the moon might be passing over on Tuesday and Wednesday. Anything interesting? Oh, well, we have Pythia. The Pythia. The Pythia is an oracle. That's at the very end of Scorpio. Oh, yeah, shit, I forgot to look at Scorpio. Interesting asteroids in Scorpio. I will rattle them off now. Ceres 13, Scorpio. Osiris 14. Poseidon 16. Cassandra 21. Typhon, which is a serpent in mythology. Serpent energy, 22 degrees Scorpio. Hidalgo, 23 degrees. Dizwana, 23. Radio Comunicata, ooh, 24 degrees. Deucalion, that's sort of like a Noah type of a theme, and it also means being spared. You know how Noah was spared the flood, or could have to do with a flood? Iris, 28, Scorpio. Ceto, which is a sea monster, 28, Scorpio. And Pythia, 30, Scorpio. Last degree of Scorpio. Psyche at 3 degrees Sagittarius. Orpheus, 4 degrees. Asclepius, 6 degrees. That's a healing type thing. Harold, 11, Sagittarius. And that'll cover most of the 17th, 16th, and 17th. So, Wednesday, the 18th, is an 8-day. Moon will be conjunct Antares. It's war. That's a war. In conjunct to Jupiter in Taurus, economic, physical, tangible resources, law, judges, lawyers, legal proceedings, cases for damages, suing for money because it's Taurus. Um, the media, international stuff. That's Jupiter. I'm talking about Jupiter. Wednesday the 18th. Moon in Sagittarius. It will, before that though, it's square to Venus. That's some probable economic news, something about money, health, relationships. Hang on, I'm looking at something. Well, it is the moon in conjunct to Jupiter, so there is something unexpected in terms of law, legal actions, squaring to Venus. Yeah, probably more economic stuff, difficulties. Okay. The sun is still conjunct the south node, and now on the 18th, Mercury is conjunct the south node, announcing something. The moon will be conjunct or in the first house of Biden. Watch and see if there's anything that goes on with Camel Toe and Biden. What else? Well, definitely having to do with war because moon conjunct Antares. Probably it's us getting more involved, the US getting more involved in this conflict, which it means we already know. You know, oh, there was some other stuff that came up, but I might go into that later on in the podcast when I talk about the super duper secret stuff about the eclipse. Um, something about ships, because in looking at the stars, I was seeing some fixed stars in the constellation of Argo Navis, which has to do with nautical things and ships, shipwrecks, and drownings. We have a ship that was sent out there, and what comes up from the past is an issue where Israel had bombed one of our ships and killed our man, and then they were like, "Oops, my bad." I forget the name of the ship, so please forgive me. I'm not up on my history, but that did come out, and was spoken about. So I think we'll hear maybe more about that. Maybe it'll come into the public debate of how in the past, Israel has done some stuff. Like, and we just fucking ignored it. Like, they were like, oops, that was a mistake. And it was never dealt with. Well, just like whether that happens again or more shitty shenanigans. But I know that that came up with the eclipse because there were stars activated in Argo Navis, and those stars have to do with drowning, shipwrecks, you know, sinking of ships. So I don't know. I'll have to look more at that. Okay, that's the 18th. And then we come to Thursday, the 19th. That's our 9 day. The moon will be in Sagittarius, conjunct to the galactic center, which is a very, very sensitive point. And the last few degrees of Sagittarius, it will sextile the sun and Mercury. There will be some kind of announcement about politics and law and um, leader, an announcement by a leader. Maybe we'll have our speaker. Will it take that long? It could be regarding the speaker because the 20th is a 1 and the moon will be in Capricorn and it will conjunct asteroid house. So let's keep an eye on that. But Sun conjunct Mercury conjunct South Node, there is a release of information. It could be stuff from the past. It could be someone leaving a relationship. It could be let's see what happens with Camel Toe because there was a lot of like negativity coming towards her with Mars that would have been in conjunct her sun. If I'm not wrong, I'm pretty sure I remember seeing her chart and her sun being at that, like within the last 5 degrees of Libra. So either an announcement about her or by her. Um, Mars being on her sun would have been perhaps negativity, anger, an attack uh, towards her. We might not have heard about that because that would have maybe gotten lost in the sauce, right? I don't know. Angry words from her, by her, who knows? Let's see what happens. But moon in Sagittarius, it will in conjunct Uranus, so it is some um, some kind of news that you got to make an adjustment to because things are changing. I swear, with this eclipse energy brings so much shifting, musical chairs, flip-flopping. When you think things are going in one direction, it can change from day to day. So if you think that you're going to have to give something up, let it go, take a new direction, that direction can change between now and the next eclipse. It's still very unstable. So I would say just if you can wait, see how things play out because it's not going to come to its fullness until after the eclipse when the dust settles and we'll know what direction things are heading and then you can make your decision. I mean, you could have made a decision on an internal level anyway. So, like, We might know. We might know what our decision is or what we want, where we're at. Maybe it's, the other person, the other parties coming to that sort of realization and starting to talk about it or whatever the changes are. I mean, it's not all bad. Especially that things are changing, so we need to adjust and we need to have conversations with the people in our life to prepare us for this upcoming cycle. With eclipses, doors close, other doors open. So let's look at the asteroids. Let's see what's up your asteroid. We stopped with Harold at 11, Sagittarius. We've got Tantalus at 18, Bernie at 19, 18, Hoya 19, Eurydice at 20, Hermes at 23, Tauro, the bull, at 24, Varda 26, Requiem at 27. Aphrodite at 29, Sag. So that's interesting that Requiem is in there because Requiem is isn't that like a eulogy? Requiem for a dream. Someone who has passed. Requiem, especially in the Roman Catholic Church, a mass. Oh, okay, it's a mass for the repose of the souls of the dead. Also a musical composition, setting parts of a requiem mass. Or an act or token of remembrance. So it comes from the Latin requies, which means rest. So a period of rest, a declaring of a ceasefire, a day of remembrance. This is a 9. This is the 19th, Thursday, reduces down to a 9. So something is ending. I mean, like, could somebody pass early? Somebody important. It feels like we're losing someone important, maybe, later. There could be assassination. This is assassination type vibes. And I have been seeing that in the astrology. People have died. Okay. There have been people, I guarantee you, in politics in the public eye who have passed over the last, let's say, 3 months that it was not an accident, it was not natural, it was an assassination. So assassinations are happening, it doesn't mean that you know about it, right? So shit going down. Oh my God. I'm at 2 hours already, and I said I wasn't going to go to 3 hours. Maybe I won't do my deep dive. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. Ay, ay, ay. Well, so many asteroids, so little time. What's going on over here in the chat? I need a break. It's Lynn and Dave holding up the chat single handedly. At least, Lynn, you have somebody in there with you today. I'm glad. Yes, correct, Lynn. We only know what is being put into the narrative. But when we're reading the stars and the planets, we are being given the possibility to look beyond the narrative to say, there's something else going on here. And we're going to find out later for sure. So Mars is going to be on the 19th at 5 to 6 degrees of Scorpio, which is opposite the degree of the upcoming lunar eclipse, which will be, I believe, on Joe Biden's moon. And the moon is one of the planets that represents our health. The moon represents the public uh, and the mood, but a difficult aspect to the moon, especially like Mars is, anger, aggression, uh, coming at him from other people going towards his moon. So I believe he is a Sagittarius rising. All his Scorpio stuff is in the 12th house. It's hidden, it's behind the scenes. Um, I said when he was elected, I don't like this guy. I didn't know a lot about him politically, but I'm like, he's got 12th house Scorpio, backroom deals, um, secrets, sex stuff, money, shitty stuff. I don't like him. The Sagittarius comes across, very, very worldly and, um, well, Sagittarius is one of the signs that is sort of political too, but law and legal stuff, foreign policy, whatever, truth, justice, all those Jupiterian things. Very Jupiterian type person, but you are not seeing who he fucking is because all his shit is in the 12th house. So it also means that he's got a lot of enemies. He has fucked people over. And this dude is going to get his shit. And I am here for it. So there's something going on, I believe. And it could be about his health because, so if Mars is going through his 12th house, that is an attack. That is behind the scenes, hidden enemies. It is, if it's opposing his moon, that would be in the 6th house. That's his health, and that's also open enemies. So there's something going on with him. I guess we'll have to find out, but Thursday is a 9 day. So whatever it is, because there is a resonance to whatever was going on the 16th and 17th. So look at Monday and Tuesday. What happens and what is said on Thursday is also connected to October 7th, which was the attack, and the 16th. Those are both reducing to a 7. October 7th, just the day, not the date, not the month, day, and year. But the 7, okay, resonates to the 16th, Monday. They both reduce to a 6. And then the culmination is on Thursday, the 19th, because that reduces to a 9, which the day itself, 19, is a 1. So this is well, 9s are always an ending and a beginning. These are very important days. So watch what's going on with yourself, your relationships, what is beginning, what is ending, what ended with the eclipse, what is being eclipsed out. We talk about eclipses as being a doorway, a portal, in a metaphorical sense, but in an energetic sense, it is too. So we need to leave the stuff that we're done with that belongs to the old cycle. We need to leave it behind on an emotional level, on an intentional level. Uh, we make decisions and end things within ourselves before we actually are acting on it or have talked about it or have seen the change. So um, watching what's going on will help you to know what you are going to be faced with as far as the changes that are happening internally and externally. So, again, Thursday, very important day. For the most part, the moon is in Sagittarius. I told you the asteroids towards the end of a Sagittarius, most important ones we want to look at are Requiem, in my opinion, the most important ones. Hermes at 23, that is going to make aspects to Mercury and in conjunct to Uranus. So, Hermes, again, you're going to have to look at the hidden meaning, what's behind what's being said, and trickery, because Hermes is a trickster. Hermes is Mercury. Mercury is the mental realm. Okay. Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So while Mercury just deals with the ego, left brain, uh, just regular communication, the way we think, the way we speak, um, the narrative is not going to be, um, it's not what you see is what you get. Also, the intention of whatever's being communicated can have the opposite effect because we're dealing with Uranus. It's a wild card and it's coming from our higher self consciousness. That's Uranus, the higher octave. It's also the growing degree of consciousness within the collective, uh, and the way information comes across through the internet. I think that something that could potentially happen during this week is an internet issue or blackout, social media blackout. Like that is definitely, like if I go back to Monday, right? If I go back to Monday and I look at Mercury's aspects, it's aspecting sextile to Hermes, in conjunct to Uranus. I mean, that could very well be on the 16th where we have a total media blackout because there's a huge debate right now. Like, should we even be looking at such, like, do we really need to see all the death and destruction? And they're talking about live streaming um, the killing of hostages and abductees. And with the eclipse, we did have Persephone, so there are themes of hostages, abductions, um, and will we see it? Will it be cut off? Will we cut off all of they don't have to cut off, they don't have to shut down X, Twitter, or Instagram or Facebook. What they can do is throttle streaming media or block pictures. So pictures are one thing, but when you're talking about streaming video, I mean, I know for sure that that happens because there's been times when I have been on X and I can scroll, I can click, I can comment, I can post, but I cannot stream videos. So, that's probably what's going to be happening. I think that's part of narrative this week of um, control over social media, the media in general, what we're allowed to see with, you know, Venus, when Venus opposed Saturn last week, we were seeing more censorship happening, more talk of censorship. Mars trine to Saturn, putting in more blockages and censorship, or the attempts to, or working towards. And it could be that when the moon goes into Sagittarius, 16th into the 17th, and squares Saturn, that's when we see something, somebody being blocked. I mean, they've done it before, but that could be likely in the Middle East for sure. It could be very localized if there's any kind of protests and they go bad, which they probably will this week. It's just that kind of energy. Uh, um, it could be localized to, let's say, New York City or LA, DC, whatever, where your access to social media and uploading videos and photos and whatever is blocked. That could happen this week. I mean, that looks highly likely and not unexpected for those of us, for people that I hang out with anyway. We just know that now that this is what is going to happen. All right. And also, Mercury and the Sun converging on the 18th into the 19th on the South Node is the loss of, which is the South Node, the Sun, which is a public figure, a leader, and Mercury is communication. So, deplatforming, um, gag order, probably if it has to do with legal, there's a few legal cases that I'm watching right now where obviously Trump is one of them, but gag orders, people being allowed to talk, um, the families of the victims not allowed to being not, just not, there's stuff going on that people are observing that people who are in power or in charge of investigations, let's say, they don't want people talking. In some respects, that's true. But what if you're observing, suppression of evidence or corruption? You think that the investigators are not doing their job. Well, they obviously don't want you to compromise their investigation. Totally understandable. And that's the face that they're giving the media for not giving certain information, let's say, to the public, hurts the investigation, blah, blah. It's the same argument as, well, we can't tell you because national security. But there's also the fact that there's cover-ups, there's shady shit going down, and they don't want you to know. So in terms of citizen journalists and true crimers on YouTube, law tubers, people who are discussing these cases, it's possible that somebody might go too far, expose too much, and they get shut down. Yeah. And Lynn says, I'm wondering when the hammer will go down on Twitter, aka X, the double crosser. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Elon gets to put himself out there as a man of the people. And I do believe that the views he holds are the ones that he expresses are really, that's him. But the control only goes so far. Like he only has so much power because he is not just an individual, he is a collective. He represents a collective. And they don't seem to rein him in. I think they want him in that position because they want the people to feel like they have a voice. So they kind of, let him play both sides. But yeah, at the end of the day, he don't make all the decisions. The other thing is, there's a big battle going on right now in regard to censorship in the UK. They passed a law stating that social media platforms cannot, um, they have to adhere to certain things, certain regulations and rules, and they will be fined. Otherwise, they will not be allowed to operate in the UK. And that came to light with what happened with Russell Brand, who is a douchebag anyway. Ugh, creepy guy. Um, so there's that going on, and I think we're gonna see some craziness. So I'd have to look at Elon's chart to see how it's affecting him. But when I did the deep dive into his chart on Dave's show on Beyond the Strange, if you go to Dave's channel, you'll find that show there where I picked his chart apart in the way that I do. And, um, I feel him to be heavily influenced and positioned because of who he is genetically, um, because DNA is very, very important in his chart. And I heard it this week, somebody said it, that they believe that he is not genetically 100% human. So that discussion is coming. And we'd have to look at the asteroid DNA for that. So where was I before I got off track? I'm up to Thursday, the 19th, the 9 day, something ends. I feel like somebody lied or somebody gets deplatformed, um, gag order, or something comes out that's very, very detrimental. And somebody mad, mad, hella pissed. It'll have to do with the 7th and the 16th. So the day that the whole attack went down and whatever happens on Monday, because they're both 6 days. And this is the 9. So this is the peak. So Friday is a 1 day. The moon will be sextile to Mars from Capricorn. Sextile to Mars. Uh, Moon in Capricorn will put the focus on uh, maturity, being, of integrity, loyalty, and making difficult choices, focus on government, obviously. Uh, okay, so Moon will sextile to Mars. Definitely a good day to focus, get things done, be responsible, take care of whatever you need to. And in terms of mm, money, finance, um, if you need to deal with those things, or anything having to do with law, legal, travel, um, resources, it's a very good day for that because it's the moon's making sextile to Mars, a trine to Venus in Virgo. So again, anything having to do with health, aging, wealth, resources, blah, blah, blah. It seems like it might be a good time if you need to look at uh, legacies and inheritances, management, custodial issues when it comes to finances or debts, taxes, benefits, that kind of thing. So the 20th, it's a Friday. It's a good day for that. Sun and Mercury will be at 28 to 29 degrees of Libra. So that will be square Pluto. Okay. Mars square Pluto at this degree was rough, angry, attack, war. The Sun and Mercury is, I guess, really taking charge of whatever kind of issues we're dealing with in terms of our fear, because that's Pluto, or our government. This is a big deal, actually. Um, Pluto at the last few degrees of Capricorn, and it just went direct. So on the day that it went direct, which was this past week, we definitely saw a shift and change in direction. That was the 11th. Whatever was going on for you around the 11th, big changes, people passing away. See, I just feel like there's more death to come. I'm really sorry, guys. Hey. Well, death is transformation, right? And death doesn't have to be literal, but this is a difficult energy right here over the 18th, 19th, 20th. So if someone falls sick or goes into the hospital or something like that, um, they could pass on the 20th. This looks very interesting. So if you have anything at those degrees, keep an eye out. Um, Mercury is news, and the Sun is leadership, ego, identity, squaring Pluto. I mean, it is transformational, right? I don't know what this will be. But with given the current climate, the moon on the 20th, Friday, it's one day. It will conjunct asteroid House, the one I've been talking about, around 14, 15 degrees of Capricorn. Um, so the moon will be at that degree. So, I mean, at the very, very least, in terms of electing a speaker, there's a lot of friction, trying to control, and square to Pluto, there's that's the whole governmental thing. And I expect on Friday it will be hairy and it will center around the house. Will we have a speaker? Will will the house be in chaos over who the speaker is? Will there be another assassination? Crazy days ahead. All right, so on the 21st, Saturday, it's a 2-day. That's the moon conjunct Pluto, square to the sun and Mercury. Whatever's happening on Friday, it's continuing into Saturday. It's a rough day. This is heavy duty energy. I would think that there's a lot of, on a personal level, obsession and control and fear. Like, watch the narrative. To me, this is a good day, like, just not to look at the news. Um, because they're going to be really pumping out and laying on the fear stuff, the control, having to do with government. It's going to be really intense on the 21st. That's a 2-day. Um, hmm, yeah. And then Sunday on the 22nd, that's our 3. So the 19th, and then everything that happens the 1, the 2. So from Thursday, the 19th, the 9, very important day. Then we have things playing out, 20th and the 21st, the 1 day and the 2 day. And then on Sunday is the 3. So that's our 369 marker. And so on the 22nd, we have the moon mostly after it passes the moon over Pluto. Super intense, man. This is a big freaking battle. And, on a personal level, it, could be really somebody just saying things have to transform, um, digging their heels in, saying, I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm taking control. I've given my power away, but I'm done. And also, because the Sun and Mercury has gone over the South Node, we're dealing with a loss, but it's about what we're giving up too. Like, okay, I give up. You know what? I see it now. I see the bullshit. I see what I've been dealing with. I see things differently. Um, I don't want to live in a fantasy world of delusion anymore. And so, you know, have fun with that. I am movingon.org. Square to Pluto. Uh, we can't really discount the possibility of like violence and really manipulative, crazy stuff. But I mean, a fight, big time. Um, and of course, like, it's like the shit is going down. If we don't have a speaker by Friday, oh my God. Whatever. Um, so on Sunday, the moon goes into Aquarius, much more detached, much more chill, but it is going to square Mercury and Mars. So, Aquarius having to do with technology, again, social media, um, the collective groups, um, in terms of like protests and stuff like that, it doesn't look good. And those things tend to amp up on the weekend for those who have a 9 to 5er. So, um, Mercury, the mind, will be in Scorpio. So that's another thing. Um, Saturday into Sunday, the mind and communication is more subtle and secretive and stealthy. And everything that Mars did, Mercury is going to go in there and be like, oh, I see what you did now. So as it goes over the degrees that Mars went over, and communications. So I expect there will be manipulation and warrantless wiretaps. That's what comes to mind with Mercury in Scorpio, square the moon in Uranus. Um, Fucking around with people's devices. I mean, that's just like immediately comes to mind with this whole thing. So that's Sunday. But also, on a personal level, probably want to detach. You know, Moon in Aquarius is very analytical. It's an air sign. It's thinking and talking about feelings and being able to remove ourselves from situations. I expect that would be maybe more or less backing away from certain discussions, certain people, uh, or just whatever, taking a detached look and analyzing. Mercury in Scorpio is going to be starting to really investigate what's going on. So I kind of like it. Feels good to me. And then the sun will go into Scorpio. So then we'll be in Scorpio season on the 23rd. Well, yeah, on the 23rd. So the week ends with a 3 on the 22nd on Sunday. And then Monday, the sun goes into Scorpio. And the Halloween season is in full swing. In terms of like paranormal stuff, I would watch what's going on with the aspects towards the end of the week. I look at, like, for instance, on Friday. Ooh. I mean, who doesn't want to go to like a haunted mansion for Halloween, right? Um, I kind of feel like, oi, oi, oi. What if you go to a haunted mansion and it really is haunted, right? This seems crazy. Well, the moon is conjunct asteroid house, and Mercury and the sun square to Pluto. That's like, does somebody get scared to death? Does something weird go down at a Halloween celebration? Um, does LARP, the live action role play, become reality? Like, or does where it's like an exercise or a practice, or it's supposed to be a theatrical event, and yet it's actually dark. Um, hmm. We're gonna have to look at the asteroids and the stars further as we go through the week, because I don't know. This is looking a little crazy to me. Anyway, at the very least, there is the potential for verbal aggression because we're dealing with Mercury uh, and the Sun and Pluto. So it's better to like say nothing, in my opinion. Hold your tongue, because Pluto is control and it's a square, so it's friction, it's difficult, but really the best thing to do is to hold your cards close to your chest and don't show how afraid you are or how pissed you are or uh, not feeding into the aggression, the fear, the fight, the control, the manipulation. Because the moon is in Capricorn, so you want to be strategic and mature when it comes to your feelings and not letting them leak all over everybody. Yeah, especially over the weekend. Pluto. I mean, it really does look good for Halloween celebrations, but like, uh, scary. But like, really scary. A lot of tension in the air. Poker face. Yeah, Lynn. I love that song. Whew. One of my favorites. So, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I'm sorry. I know I teased. I was really gonna get into like the stars and stuff around the eclipse, but we have time. We can look at it, but this is like a year's, not a year's, but like years and years worth of distilling some very deep esoteric stuff that I've been looking at for a long time when it comes to the stars and astrology. Uh, um, and this eclipse, which seemed to kind of bring it all together. But I think it's going to deserve a show on its own because I still haven't learned to condense into less than 2 hours a weekly forecast. You know what it is? I just can't talk about the aspects. I have to think about where they're going and what's happening and what things I'm looking at as a marker of the energy and how I see it playing out in terms of personal relationships and, you know, events in the public that we're aware of, current events. So maybe one day I'll get there. But, you know, God bless you guys who sit there and listen to this for 2 hours. There was a time when I did. I listened to long-winded podcast. Um, I don't really have. It's not where my focus is at, so that's okay. Rather, I'm here doing the long-winded podcast. But I don't mind it. I'm here for it. I love it. And I'm grateful for everyone who is listening. And I hope that, like I hope you're really getting benefit from it and learning and finding it interesting because I like to share what I've learned with people. Um, and for a long time, I haven't really had anybody to talk to for many, many years about the things that I was seeing and investigating, researching, and whatnot. Uh, and it was hard for me also to be able to kind of connect the dots and convey it in a in a coherent sentence, string together something that doesn't sound like a Kamala Harris word salad, and that doesn't sound like I'm just spitting bullshit. But I do. I know I rabbit trail. I do, but I'm going somewhere with it, and um, I just appreciate your support and the fact that somebody out there is getting it, even if it's two or three or one. I don't care. It don't matter. Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate your support, and um, I appreciate that you appreciate my knowledge. It's nice to be appreciated, isn't it? Yeah. I learned not to preach at people or try to educate anybody who is just not interested or who thinks I'm a weirdo or who doesn't give a shit. Or they're just not ready for me to crack their bubble, their egg, 'cause they're still sort of. I don't red pill people anymore. I used to. I used to do it for fun at work. I was known as the resident conspiracy theorist. And I'm really trying to think about a new term because that has been hijacked, obviously, in the same way that Gnostic was a slander to those people. Uh, Conspiracy theorist is a slander against those who are seeking the truth. But I also don't like truther. I don't like seeker. It's not quite defining what I haven't quite put my finger on it. I think I came up with it the other day and then I lost it. It'll come back to me if it's relevant and important, but there was a term that would replace conspiracy theorist. Sometimes I just refer to material as being conspiracy related just because people understand what I'm talking about when I say that. But we're going to have to rename ourselves somehow. So, I'm open to suggestion uh, if anybody has an alternative term. But, you know, yesterday's conspiracy theorist is today's authority on the subject because they're saying, you know what? You were right. Fuck yeah, I was right. But like, I've moved on. I don't, like I said, I'll talk to people who get it, but then I'm preaching to the choir, which I feel like is my whole social media feed, which is all of us like yelling at one another, but we're yelling at one another. Like no one else is seeing it, so why do we even bother? Sometimes I just post things to, I don't know, like, um, I use it as a marker for astrology. I also feel like it has power because I am putting an exclamation point on it, I guess. Like, okay, there it is. I see it. I saw it. There it is. But who am I really educating? Nobody. And then again, there are people in my circle that benefit from the information. Like, oh, they said that. Oh, that happened. I don't know. I like Twitter. I don't feel like I've ever been very visible on social media. Uh, it's not shadow banning. Maybe it is. Maybe I got like pigeonholed or doghoused a long time ago and I'm never able to get out of it. But I feel invisible within the collective. Uh, and I've never had much engagement on Facebook or any of my posts. I have a Facebook page and I've got like two people that even respond to it. And then it's like, why bother? So on Twitter, sometimes I just keep scrolling and I don't repost or whatever because sometimes I figure my people, they already know. And maybe there's people on Twitter that follow me that they see it, but they don't like it. If you don't like a post, I don't know if it means anything to you. That's the irritating thing about social media. It's like if you like people's posts, it's feedback, it's support. It also boosts the post. But a lot of people will just read it, get the information, keep scrolling. So for me, um, social media doesn't work for me in terms of my visibility, my astrology. Uh, Maybe people are seeing my posts and they don't really give a shit, or, you know, I write these long dissertations about the aspects and the asteroids. For all I know, other, you know, uh, astrologers could be reading it and be like, well, I can't like that post because then that would be me supporting another astrologer, and I can't do that. Fuck you. So, yeah, who knows? But for me, Twitter is good because I am able to take the pulse of what's going on. I get my news. I can search to see what people are saying. It's not just mainstream media and news articles, it's what are people posting who are actually in the situation or are like boots on the ground. Like if an event goes down in an area, you can have the news story, and then you've got the Twitter, TikTok, Instagram videos that people who are fucking there are posting and people who are commenting. So, the only good thing for me about it is that um, I get my news, I get my information. If I want to know what something is, I can look it up very easily to see what people are saying about it. So, in that respect, it is useful for me. But if you're on Twitter, please follow and like and support. I appreciate it. Um, you might have to go look for my posts because maybe they don't show up in your feed if you're following me. And the more interaction you have on someone's posts and their feed, then you start to see their stuff. So if you want to support, if you're on there, I'd appreciate it. And following and liking or whatever. That would be very helpful, although I'm not really concerned about my reach. I've gained a lot of subscribers actually, uh, and oh, I got a bunch of followers over the last couple of months on Twitter, but subscribers on YouTube. Um, I want to say no, I didn't double, but I increased significantly. I'm on the rise. Getting more interaction. I'm getting more views, which is always very cool. But I don't really care. The thing is, I'd be doing it anyway. I'd be doing it anyway, and it's for whoever gets it, whoever wants it. I don't give a shit about the, you know, blowing up or being visible or being like TikTok famous, blowing up on Instagram. Don't really care. I'm doing what I love, and I'm sharing. I'm sharing my work, and not everybody's gonna get it. I understand that, and so what I understand from my chart is I have an unaspected moon in the 11th house, so I stand out in the crowd in the 11th house, but I feel disconnected. Um, I don't know why that is. It just is. But that's okay. The people that connect are the ones that probably have aspects and placements in Aquarius and we're weirdos, or aspect my moon from other signs, from air and fire signs. So, whoever gets it gets it. It's cool. Anyway, we're going to talk about the esoteric stuff regarding the eclipse tomorrow. I'm sorry. I know. Guess what? We're going to talk about Boots as the hermit, as the steward of the house, the manager of the estate. Because we are talking about house, we're talking about Boots, we're talking about uh, stars in the Virgo Virgin, we're talking about the ring of fire and the baby crowning through the cervix and the pain of childbirth. We're going to talk about Arcturus. We're going to talk about Spica. We're going to speak about Spica. What else are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about Typhon, who storms Olympus, and the gods flee Apollo, becoming a raven. We're going to talk about corn crops and corn pops and what else did I think was interesting? Corvus the crow, who's crafty and greedy, lying, shit-stirring, agitators, lazy, procrastinate. Oh, I said that, procrastinators. And what else? We're going to talk about Heze in Virgo at 22 degrees of Libra below the girdle of the Virgin, which relates to the cervix and the crowning of the baby. The sun, the male, eclipsed by the moon, the female, the father, Origone, Astraea, the Titans, and the war of the gods, Astraea who turned against her own father, Origone who hanged herself at the loss of her father in grief, which is Virgo, both of them. And we're going to talk about the Empress, number 3 in the Tarot, which is the Virgo Virgin. In Kabbalistic terms, they assign the Empress to Virgo. We're going to talk about Ceres and her chaff of wheat. We're going to talk more about Virgo and steganography, symbols, records of speech, investigations, mental training, and acuity, everything that has to do with Virgo in that respect. I talked a little bit about Argo Navis. Mars is at 2 degrees of Scorpio conjunct a star that is in the hull of the ship of Argo Navis. And guess where the ships are going? And aspected by Saturn does have to do with drowning. So, what's going on? We're going to talk about Inanna and Ishtar and Samaria and Mesopotamia. We're going to talk about Mary, Queen of Heaven, as that relates to all of the feminine aspects of God in our mythologies, all the way up to Mary today. What else are we going to talk about? More numerology, the 9th day, the 9th house, the 9th gate, 7 and 7. That's the 15. Is 7 and 7. And what that has to do with the goddess aspects and Venus and numerology and the 14th letter of the alphabet and the 14th day, the eclipse. Persephone Add her to the list. Is very similar to Inanna. All right, that's all I'm going to give you right now. There's so much more. Anyway, that's it for today. Shit, I should just go another 10 minutes and call it 3 hours. I don't want it to be that long. All right, one of these days. Okay, that's it. Thank you again, Lynn, Dave, who's no longer in the chat, and anyone else who hears this after the fact, past, present, and future. Time has no bearing. All simultaneous, all happening all at once. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit the bell for the notifications. And find me on the socials, Insta, Twitter, Facebook, Rumble channel. Go over there and subscribe. Anything that is not YouTube worthy will go up on Rumble. But I've been hearing some rumblings about Rumble too. They're getting a lot of pressure. So I do expect more, more censorship. You know, I have a Substack. If you go to Substack, I haven't updated my newsletter in way too long. But just in case, I know that I can record podcasts on Substack. So it'd be a good idea to follow and subscribe on all of the platforms that I'm letting you know about. In addition to my Gilded chat, which is the link is in the description for the video. Uh, I might be posting in the near future if I experience censorship on the YouTube here. So, Substack, you can subscribe to my newsletter. I know there is the capability for me to do a podcast. I am on, I think I'm on Spreaker. I am on Spotify. Um, where else am I? I can't think of anything else. But, you know, maybe a good idea to follow those accounts because even if they're not current, I'll be updating those. I'm just going to go wherever, the freedom train goes. So, humans are adaptable. We'll get the word out, and the people that know me and love me will follow me anywhere. So, uh, if you know of anybody who would be interested in the type of astrology that I am doing, definitely pass it along. Sharing is caring. And if you're interested in a reading, you can find me. Well, you can email me for one, astrolunachick@gmail.com, or you can check out my AstroLunaChick hotline, which is my Google voice number. And that is 914-222-1231. You can, like it's a regular phone. You can call it. I might not pick up, but you can leave a voicemail. You can text if you want to inquire about booking a reading. So, with that said, this is always a good time to get a reading around the eclipses, around or before the eclipses, because it's good to know how they're affecting you and being, forewarned is forearmed. All right, ending it here. Hope you have a lovely Sunday and have a great week coming up. Again, watch for my pop-ups. I announce them usually on Twitter. I'm not that diligent yet about and making those posts and letting people know on the other socials, really, because I live on Twitter. Um, but yeah, hitting the bell, you should get a notification when I go live. But um, just as a general rule of thumb, check me out around like the noon o'clock hour. That's usually when I'm active and chatting. So if I pop up, it won't be before noon, generally speaking. So that's always a good time to check in. Anyway, so thanks again. I love you guys. I appreciate you. And I'll be back at you during the week. Ciao for now.